Thank you. Welcome to Warrant and Finance Committee meeting for September 26th. The first thing on the agenda is salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As you see on our agenda, we're taking things a little out of order from the way it is on the warrant. So the first warrant article, let's see here, Article 4, to see if the town of Acton will vote to transfer $100,000 from the school's undated fund balance. Let me start over again. To see if the town of Acton will vote to transfer $100,000 from the school's unassigned funds to the school's designated capital improvement reserves account for the purpose of upgrading to LED lighting throughout the school. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the article as written.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
What is the advantages and disadvantages of doing it?
Andy, you or John want to come up? One of you?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me here, and I think part of the reason why you changed the order was Dennis knows I gotta get home and get my beauty sleep. So I think he put the school first, and he said, Ross, you gotta go home and make your face look better. So that's the reason I'm on first tonight.
Well, when you're raising close to 300 kids though, John, you do need more sleep.
What we have is an opportunity to do all the lighting on the inside of the building to LED, convert over to LED lighting for the entire building. At a reduced cost. We're working with Efficiency Maine, and they've done an audit of what that payback would be over time in regards to pulling out the current lighting and putting in LED. We're asking for $100,000 from the unassigned school fund balance to pay for the project up front with the vote in November. And then with a positive vote, that work would begin immediately. And it needs to be done by mid-February, according to the contracts that we have, that we put out there in place with expected funding. Given that $100,000, the exact number would be $99,198, and there's an estimated rebate that we get from Efficiency Maine of $46,198 for a total estimated cost of $53. We got to pay for it up front, and then we get reimbursed through Efficiency Maine. So that's how the project works. Sometimes these Efficiency Maine projects come through. Some are for residential, some commercial, some municipal. This one we were alerted to. It just happened to fit the size of our school and our building so that we could apply for it. And these are one of these things you can't budget for from year to year because you don't know what you're going to get for an opportunity through Efficiency Maine. So we jumped on it, we have everything in place, so pending the funding, we'll be able to upgrade all of our lighting in the building at a fraction of the cost that we would if we were trying to do it on our own through the regular budget. As far as details and lumens and all that kind of information, I did bring Andy with me because he knows a lot more about how this work gets done. I just wanted to kind of give you the overview and open up to any questions I might be able to answer. If not, I'm sure Andy can.
Is the current lighting fluorescent? Is that what's in the school?
Yes, the majority of it is, yes.
And does this include disposal of the mercury?
Did you hear the question, Andy? I might have you come up and join me. Yeah, I didn't think it was, the question was disposal of the mercury.
If the current lamps are fluorescent, then they're all probably mercury laden.
Yes, it's the 100,000 that we're asking for is a complete turnkey package.
Okay, so the school and the town's not going to be involved with the cost of disposal?
No.
Abatement, okay.
Yeah.
Is there quite a bit left to do?
We have done some updating through Efficiency Maine in the past. All the LED stuff outside the building is done. We have done some stuff in the building, the exit signs, some smaller rooms like bathrooms and stuff like that we picked away at, but the bulk of the school qualifies for this incentive, so, as well as the maintenance building itself too. So we looked at everything.
Do you have a number of the amount of bulbs that are gonna be changed? Because I know that going from fluorescent to LED, LED has to have its own power supply.
Right.
So, and I understand the cost of that, but do you have a number?
The number of fixtures is pretty close to the same. There's a few spots where they were able to, use, the LED lighting is so much better. They were able to eliminate some fixtures in certain places, but most of them are a one-for-one change.
And what's the total count, approximate count of how many are gonna be changed?
Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't know. I mean, there's hundreds of them, throughout the building.
Does this include parking lot lighting?
Parking lot lighting is already done.
Already done.
Yeah.
It's already done?
Yeah, that
that's
was
already-
done in roughly 2016-ish.
I don't get over there at night.
Do we have a life expectancy estimate on these lighting fixtures? Are these like a guaranteed 20 years, 30 years, 50 years?
The life expectancy, the LED technology is, I'm not super familiar with the life expectancy of it, but the maintenance of it and the life expectancy compared to what we have in place now is, it far exceeds what we have.
I didn't know if they were giving you a warranty on this at all, or a guarantee, I should say.
There will be a warranty that we get through the manufacturer, but the maintenance costs really like drop right off because, we don't have the old ballast, the bulbs, don't dim over time. So, I mean, a lot of the bulbs we change, even if they're not burnt out, they just don't produce enough
Right.
light.
Enough light.
So the maintenance, and we've noticed that with the LEDs that we've already done, like the exterior of the building, since we changed them over, we've only serviced, in 10 years, we've only serviced maybe 3 or 4
Oh, wow.
fixtures. And the lighting is really good compared to what it was before with the old metal halide, the old ballast metal halide type fixtures.
Well, the LEDs have a power supply also, which is the equivalent of the ballast.
Yes, they have drivers in them, yep.
Yeah, drivers. When you said you've done maintenance on just a few, maintenance being just the change of the LED element itself or the entire fixture?
No, there were 2 fixtures that were actually covered by warranty that there was a rubber gasket on them and some water got in there and damaged the internal
Yep.
components of the lights, and Norman Electric has done a ton of work for us at the school, and they came and they replaced them at no charge at the time, so.
This program, is it a grant?
It's actually offered through Efficiency Maine, which does commercial and residential.
'Cause I'm not familiar with that, so,
Right, so it's a kind of a public-private partnership where any kind of cost savings for energy reduction, wind, solar, LED, it's kind of a whole package. I went on and really looked at their website. They do a lot with residential, and the commercial and municipal pieces, you have to fit the profile. And like I said earlier, the size of the building and the opportunity happen to fit Acton Elementary School.
but is there a possibility we won't get this money?
Well, no, I don't think there's no we won't get the money, we get the rebate.
Well,
Right, so.
I'd stand corrected on
Leslie,
that.
yeah,
Yes,
so the
yeah.
reality is, if we get a positive vote in November, I've asked Andy to give as many guarantees from the contractors that we can to, do we have the supply? Meaning we don't want to wait for a container ship from California to get the work going, so let's make sure we have what we need. And can we put people on the job as soon as possible, because there's a window through the holiday break that we could get this done. That's well before our February deadline. So we have a mid-February deadline to get the work done. And so far, all systems are go.
And kind of to piggyback on that, Leslie, the way the program works is you go through a pre-approval process.
Okay.
Which we've already done and secured. So it goes through a pre-approval process. Once you have that pre-approval, you can move forward with the process that we're working on now as far as funding the project.
So basically, as long as you finish on time, that money is pretty much guaranteed?
Right.
Okay.
And different projects, different size projects through Efficiency Maine have different timelines. Our timeline is 9 months from start to finish. So the way that this town meeting will work out, with the funding.
Yeah, okay.
We're able to make everything work, but the pre-approval process has already taken place, so it's a guarantee that once it's locally funded, we will get that rebate.
Okay.
What
Thank
fund
you.
will the rebate be credited to when you get it?
I'm gonna guess that would go back into the school capital reserve. I'd have to speak with my
Well, the
finance director on
unassigned?
that. What's that?
The unassigned?
That would be my guess, would go back where it would come from. I can have that answer for you, for sure, during the form when we look at it. That and how many units we're putting in and a couple other things around warranties that I heard tonight are all questions that could come up again, and we'll make sure we have answers.
Have you looked at the cost savings versus what we have right now?
Yes. We are looking at, monthly, we're looking at $2,694 in savings. Annually, we're looking at $32,336 a year. So it's pretty significant. So when you look at the payback period on a project of this size, it doesn't take long for it to pay for itself.
That's like 3 years.
Right, so it's pretty,
And they'll far outlast 3 years.
right. And like John said when he was starting tonight, it's tough for us when these programs come up and they become available. It's tough for us to take full advantage of them if we don't have the funding in place. Like if we had a reserve fund somewhere that we could utilize for this, that would be great, but we don't. And to not be able to take advantage of this would really be a shame because of the short payback period, the improvement to the school itself, and the maintenance cost at some point are gonna catch up and help us, so it's a really good program.
Could you repeat those costs again?
Actually, I can give you,
Yeah, would you get a packet for everybody?
Yeah.
Awesome. It gives you kilowatt savings too, for those of you that know electricity, of 153,985. That's how much we're not.
Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
So then this will be reflective on next school budget.
That would be the idea. I'll see you at the meeting.
Ray's gonna remember.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you know I will.
Just so that,
Actually, your payback is quicker than that.
it is, most of the people on the committee might not realize this, but I think this is the fourth project, that we've done through Efficiency Maine. We did one, I think it was last year in the library. A few years back, we did the fire station. And back 25 years ago, we did it at school. And back then, there was a big controversy because the new school was only 5 or 6 years old. And we wanted to do away with all the 40-watt bulbs, 4 bulbs in the fixture, and change the T8. And at that time, it was basically the same thing. The schools saved enough money in electricity costs to pay for the project in 3 years. Money is one thing, but I think one of the bigger reasons why what the school is doing is a very good idea is because fluorescent bulbs lose their lumens. And really, as Andy alluded to a little bit, just because the bulb is working doesn't mean that you're getting the proper light. And with the technology today that we're using with our children, the amount of proper light in the classroom is very, very important. So I think it's a wonderful thing that the school's doing. And I take my hat off to Andy for pushing through with this.
And just quickly reviewing this, the harmful contaminants, that's a big thing. You know, we're keeping our kids safer.
Yeah. And they've also done a lot of updating as far as lighting requirements for different areas in schools. And a lot of those specifications are, you know, they're decades old now. And a lot of that stuff will be updated when the new fixtures go in.
And you'll do the light in the room to make sure that the light is natural light.
It's all by the newest standard.
I mean, they have the meter that you take in the classroom and set on the desk and stuff that says
Yes.
it's the right light
Yep.
for that room.
I was curious
And that goes
about
back
that.
to the difference in different rooms, it's different.
Yeah.
Depending on where it's located.
I can't remember what it's called. They measure it in a unit called lux.
Yeah.
And it's,
No, lux is the intensity, what they measure it in is frequency. of temperature,
Color
by
temperature.
kelvins. So that was what I was gonna be leading into is what are the frequency range or the temperature range of these lamps, these fixtures?
I'm not certain.
Because, you know, if you get too far up around 6,000, you get more into the blue scale, and it's not good health-wise. It disrupts brain function. So I was just wondering where you are, and if you get too low, what they call warm, it's like your yellow, old incandescent bulbs, and that's pretty much a waste of
And
time.
that's what I got into, Charlie, when we did it before,
Yeah.
was the type of light. To make sure that, and I'm sure, whatever's in there is gonna be proper, but just to make sure that it is.
It all goes by the standards that.
Yeah.
There's actually a section back here that talks about lighting in school facilities, TCP lighting, creating a productive learning environment.
Yes,
It
yeah.
goes through all of that, so I would imagine that if they're including that in here,
Correct, yep.
that you're getting some,
Yeah,
you know.
but
some-
getting back to one thing Dennis said, I mean, the technology changes so quickly. We actually did an update in the gym through Efficiency Maine probably 12 years ago, and that is due to be updated again.
I forgot about that one, Andy.
So,
The sense pride.
yeah. And it was funny because when we were doing the audit on the building, we went into the gym and I said, oh, this has already been done. And he looked up and he said, well, when was it done? And I gave him the date and he said, that's old technology now. So
Wow.
12
you can
years.
leave them if you'd like because they're not that old, but the savings, if you want to maximize your savings and take, you know, maximum advantage of the program, you shouldn't leave them, so.
Yeah,
LED.
I would think, Andy, that going through this setup that they have here and talking about color temperature, that these folks are gonna know exactly what color temperature to put in certain rooms, like they're talking about special ed areas and stuff, and
Right.
certain warm and cold, like 5,000 is usually a daylight bulb.
Right.
The warm one's 2,700 Kelvin, and it depends on where that's being used. So I'm sure that's in the
Yeah.
contract or
other-
something to that effect.
The
They
other
know what
thing,
they're doing, so.
the other thing too is when you get into those areas where you might have a light-sensitive environment, the LEDs have a greater ability to be controlled with
They don't
dimmer
flicker,
switches
yeah.
and stuff like that. Whereas the older style lights just don't. So,
Andy, you said that, and on this it says, though this price does not, it excludes dimmer switches
right.
and things like that.
But that's something.
It does appear there's enough money, though, that
Right.
that should not be an issue at all. I'm asking your
Right, I mean,
expertise.
when I talked to him, he said, do you want a budget number for new controls and additional work required? And I said no, because I felt like it was opening something that we didn't need. And the control part of it, if we wanted to update once we got the new lighting, because in talking with the contractor and also with the gentleman from Johnson & Jordan who kind of got the wheels rolling with this, he said, when you get the new LED lighting installed, people aren't used to it. It's like a different type of light.
Yep.
And some people react to it differently. Some people think it's a cleaner caramel light, while other people think it's a brighter, you know, it's gonna take an adjustment. So one thing that I did wanna make sure of that, if we got lights in an area that weren't working because people were light sensitive, that we did have the ability to change just the control and not have to change all the lights. So having that ability to control them is huge, because currently we don't. It's off or on.
And not all drivers are dimmable, so
Right.
as long as you are sure that the hardware you're putting in
Works.
can be controlled at a later date.
Yeah,
And one thing that Andy doesn't want, I'll speak for Andy, is, I know when we did this back years ago, there was some staff that, oh, these lights are too bright. And the last thing we want is individuals adjusting the light in the room without, data to say it needs to be done, and that's where Andy comes into it.
It's just like temperature in the building. Some
Right.
people like their room 95, someone like it 60. You
Right.
have to stay within the, within the realm of what's required and what's comfortable for everyone.
But that is coming, like you said, some of the lights will, to some people, be a lot brighter, and
It's gonna be a change, yes, yeah. I know that we did some in my home, and, it's different light, and you have to get used to it, so.
any other questions?
Yeah, in that last school budget, you set aside $100,000 for unexpected appropriation, whatever. Is this an unexpected, or did you anticipate this, or could you,
No,
possible to?
good question, Joe. It's, the article that we passed last year was for more like break fix. Catastrophic failure in a boiler, as we saw, in our water pumps, as we've seen before. This is different. Call this an opportunity. It came along, we don't know when Efficiency Maine's gonna offer these opportunities. It came along long after the budget had passed, so it's really a different approach than that other money that you speak of.
Could you have used that money, though, had you not had this hearing and?
I think that there was discussion, Joe, during that, and I don't mean to jump in on that, but I do believe that there was discussion on the age of the other boiler that was there at the school at that point in time, and the cost that it had cost to replace this one that had broken, and not knowing when that was gonna break.
No, I think that they put them in the budget for the second boiler to be fixed this year. This is 100,000 set aside because they had nothing. They used up all their leftover money or emergency money.
Joe's question was the $100,000, yeah, in the capital reserve.
Into that, not
Right.
just saying, okay, if by chance they weren't able to
To answer,
get the approval of the town for some reason, could they have gone to this and used this fund?
the answer to that question is, from my point of view, is if we didn't get approval of the town, we wouldn't use that capital reserve for this.
Okay.
That's for break fix. In my mind, that is, storm comes in, we need to do something until the insurance company can help us out. So if the town for some reason didn't vote this in, I wouldn't be asking to go to that reserve fund to offset this.
So this doesn't take away from the boiler that you want to replace?
No, this is completely different. It was, as I mentioned, one of the issues, it's a great program, but you don't know what's coming down the pike.
Right.
You know our budget cycle, and the day after the vote of the budget, they could be like, hey, you can save $50,000 on this, but we don't know their cycle and when things are coming, so it's a
Right.
very difficult thing to put in the operating budget.
How much money is in your unassigned funds?
We just talked about that.
Not too bad.
With the reserve, Tom, you and I talked about, was that with the reserve allocated or without the reserve allocated?
I think the unassigned was 2 million.
Yeah, roughly, just under, 198. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can give you this, we certainly can give you those specific
So
numbers when you
that
need them.
ballpark is good.
You bet.
That ballpark
Thank
is
you,
good.
Leslie.
Yeah, we'll have the audit here another month or something.
Okay.
And we'll be able to go through all those numbers. Just for a little clarification, I believe I'm right. This $100,000, like John said, is for emergencies, some catastrophe. We talked about the leach field, we talked about the water system, we talked about roof failure. And that was the purpose for this $100,000.
Right.
Right.
And I think they're right in leaving it just like it is, and, because we don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow.
That would defeat the whole purpose of moving it in there,
defeat
to
the
use it
whole
for,
purpose,
for
well.
something that really, this isn't an emergency, but it's an opportunity.
You know, I think opportunity is a key word.
Any other discussion? Any comments from the public on
Just
this?
the savings alone.
Yeah, it's a-
The savings you're getting, the rebate, and then the maintenance cost being almost eliminated for probably who knows how many years. And them getting rid of the mercury, it's a no-brainer in my
I
mind.
mean, you know, if we get the money, it's 2 years
Yeah, it looks like the
to
payoff
pay
is
for
A
it.
little less than 2 years, yeah. With that rebate.
So I mean, it's kind of hard to say no to that.
Yep.
Okay,
And by all means, I mean, if you folks, go through this and you have more questions or whatever, feel free to email John or I.
yeah,
If we don't have the information, we certainly have the people that can get it for you folks.
well, we're gonna vote on it now.
No.
Would you be able to get those other questions, information?
Yeah, by I think October 5th, a week from tomorrow night, is the public forum on these items that are on the warrant, so we'll definitely be lined up for that.
Okay, great,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, we had a motion, we've had a second, all in favor?
We're looking at voting to allow them the $100,000?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a motion. 6-0, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you folks very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Hi, John.
Get your beauty sleep.
I heard that. Your light was up.
I think you were meant
He's
to.
just lucky I'm not still in school. Article 5. Right?
Where?
Am I doing it right?
Wait,
I don't have a file.
I'm losing stuff already.
Yeah,
I don't have an Article 5.
No, nor
don't?
do I, no.
No, we have 1 through 4.
I have 1 through 4.
Oh, okay,
We started with 4.
that's right, but you went out of order.
Yeah.
This is yours.
Oh, boy. Article 3. To see if the town will vote to increase the current number of selectmen, assessors, and overseers of the poor from its current number of 3 elected persons to 5 elected persons over the next 2 years. In 2023, 2 selectmen will be elected. In 2024, 2 selectmen will be elected. In 2025, 1 selectman will be elected, and continuing with the 3-year terms. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to accept Article 3 as written.
Second.
Discussion. I do know that, Mr. Waterhouse, did the petition, and he turned it into the selectmen, last month, I believe. And so it's gonna be on the November 8th, election.
What is the benefit?
Did you get one of these?
Yes.
You did, okay. Just to make sure.
I think the handout that we got explains it very well, what the benefit is.
You didn't?
Yeah, you want to read this? Okay.
Did you get it, Margarita?
I'm sorry, I was looking for a sheet of paper. I'm sorry. I did get that,
Get
thank
it,
you.
okay.
What was that?
I think that the handout explains very well
I didn't see that I had that.
what the benefit would be. I am in favor of going to a 5-member board, for all of these reasons. There's been many times we've only had 2 selectmen, so we have, for whatever reason, so we've had 2 people running the town. I know I certainly don't have all the answers to everything, and, I'd like to meet the person who does. And I think that more people, weighing in, brings more and better ideas. And it also, facilitates working together. You know, in order to get consensus, you have to compromise, and I think that's only to the advantage of the town.
I think, Margarita, reading through the bullet points, without going excessively through them, there's a few there, and the first one is better distribution of selectmen workload, better selectmen accessibility for residents, greater efficiency opportunity for offline discussions between selectmen, more flexibility and opportunity for selectmen subcommittees, ease of operation on difficult, controversial issues, and broader diversity of views and skill sets. And I think, in a nutshell, obviously there's more detail, but, I think that generally would answer your question, yeah.
So yeah, absolutely, this definitely does. Thank you.
Dennis, can someone tell me what the downside would be? I mean, right, you know, we have this in front of us and it's very good explanation of the obvious
This
positive.
basically is all the pros.
Yeah.
What are the
So I'm just-
cons, yeah.
Does someone, what would the negative side of doing that be? I don't know.
I don't either. I will tell you, historically, back in the early 90s, we changed the school board from 3 people to 5. And my experience has been, that it made a better school committee, because you do have a broader sense of views. And I think this school kind of speaks for itself, you know, the quality of the way they do stuff, and a lot of that is due to having a 5-person board. I think it's real positive for the school.
I see that the handout that we were given, it talks about researching towns that have recently made the switch. I don't see that what was provided was a name or the towns that show a positive aspect, or what towns it was. It says we were 148 out of 490 municipalities.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess I'm wondering how the towns that have a larger board, I guess I would just like to see some background on that and what the effect of it was. And I understand the bullet points, and I agree with the majority, if not all of them. But still, to have case study and to have something that shows us what the improvements were, unless this is what was at the end of it all, these bullet points are what was showing that those are what the improvements were.
And like I said, Ray, the only thing I can compare it to is the school. And it was a big improvement for the school when they did that.
I think that last page pretty much, it says that there was a consensus of the positives. So I think that's kind of, if I'm not mistaken, that's kind of what you're looking for.
And it says the information can be found listed on the MMA site. And one of the things Leslie said that I think is very relevant is through the fact of life in general. Thank you. The fact, life in general. 2 people, if you have 3, 2 are out, or 1 is out, I should say, that's 2 people who can make a decision because it's quorum. But there have been times when they've had to postpone a meeting because 2 people were out. So if you have a board of 5, your quorum is 3. Doesn't mean everybody has to agree, but you have a better chance of having...
You have an odd number too.
Yeah, you have an odd number, you have a better chance of whichever way they decide to go. You have, you know, an odd number there.
We have an odd number now.
Well,
Except if one, they can still have
Except
a
if one
quorum
isn't
with an
there.
even number.
It's a majority, right.
you have a majority, but not an odd number, yeah.
The odd number doesn't really matter, you just have to have a majority.
Right, right.
But my take on it is, I don't see what the negative would be.
The only one that I can think of is just an added cost to the town, but it's trivial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's about $20,000 a year.
And we could take what they get now and just divide it between 5 instead of 3.
Yeah, that would work.
That's just
Then
me.
you'll wind up with 0 selectmen.
A lot of other towns do it, fill their selectmen spots with with a lot less money.
I mean, I don't see, I can't understand any, logically, what possibility there could be of any negative occurrence with, just based on human nature and how groups work. 5 would definitely be a better number. I mean, all you're doing, you have certain duties that's the only reason the selectmen are there, right? The duties they've committed to. Obviously, the more input you have of different, 5 is a better number because you have more diversity on thoughts, more discussion on real important issues. And with 3, a lot of times 2 people tend to go one way and 1 tend to go the other sometimes. Having more people might, besides broaden the view, eliminate some of that occurrence, even though it's not a political scenario.
I know
Kind of is.
with this committee, at least I feel anyway, when everybody's here, I think we end up with more of a positive outcome with everybody voicing their opinions, opposed to if we have 8 here, if we only had 4 show up all the time. I don't think we'd get the
group think going.
Exactly.
Well, everyone brings a different life experience to the table, and that's important to be able to listen to how other people think, because, you know, we don't always see the big picture, and sometimes we need to have someone else say, oh, hey, did you think about this?
Well, the size of
And with
this,
3 people, you don't tend to get that as much as you do with a larger board.
the size of this committee is a good example of, if you only need, 4 for a quorum, and yet we have 8, that's a good example of how well that works, having a much larger number than what you need for a quorum. And as you just pointed out, it seems to be very positive.
I believe it is. So I don't,
Now, when this goes on the ballot, is there some, is this all the people that are voting C, or is there an explanation, or just?
no, just what's on the warrant.
Okay.
And hopefully, with the public hearing, I mean, our meeting tonight, and the public hearing that the selectmen will have, I don't know, I'm not sure we're gonna have to move the public hearing to the school, but hopefully there's enough people that attend. If they don't attend, at least watch it on YouTube.
So that's where a broader explanation, like we're seeing here, would be discussed or available, or questions could be asked.
If anybody has any, I don't know if anybody on the committee has any more questions.
I mean, the potential voters and,
Right.
yeah.
They could watch this meeting and see what we're talking about, and then they could watch that other meeting.
And watch the public hearing. And
The public hearings, I think, are really the key. Not everybody has cable. Not everybody has, you know, if I have a neighbor and I said, well, just watch YouTube. And she'll say, oh, that's that kids thing. I mean, it's, whatever reason, it's not a big draw to a lot of people. And I think it behooves us to put it out there, you know, talking to friends and everybody. You can do it. Watch us. Make sure you watch us. Watch everything. It's a very good thing to do, because if people aren't going to come out for a public hearing, they're not going to have a chance to ask questions. So we can just push, please watch us. Please watch the public hearing. Please listen to what your neighbors are saying. And that's across the board on any issue. You know, be informed. You know, be
I do
informed.
know the views, on YouTube, with the Warrant and Finance, is usually up there pretty good.
Around budget season, they are.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, maybe not so much.
Or if I talk too much and you get over 100 views.
Should we be charging royalties now? Maybe?
I think somebody's got to update their watermark, though.
I think so.
September of '21?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the,
Wouldn't that be the date of when, or month and year, or month and a day of when this warrant were actually written?
No.
No?
No, they were written officially recently. Last selectmen's meeting with Jennifer presented the drafts to the selectmen, and they approved the draft.
It's just a little,
Typo.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's trivial, I just,
Good thing I'm not.
It's kind of like partition and petition.
That was the 21st,
What's that?
last Wednesday.
All right.
That was the 21st, so the watermark is correct.
So that's when the selectmen approved the draft. Was on the 21st.
Okay, without the year, I can understand the, yeah.
what I say is there's no date at the head,
Right,
The year's not out,
right?
yeah.
yeah, right.
Up top?
Yeah, there is,
There is?
Yeah.
no, but it says,
Tuesday.
Oh, down in the text, yes, I see that.
yeah,
Normally, that's how they do it. That's been the standard, Charlie.
yeah, I think this, it's a little, you know,
No, it was just caught my eye, and
Oh,
I
of
thought it was
course.
funny.
okay, discussion from the floor.
Any other discussion? Any discussion from the public? Don?
Yes, good evening, everyone. I'm not in favor of this ballot item. Having now been a selectman for about 9 months, I've had an opportunity to see how the Acton town government works. And, you know, when you think about the school committee that you referenced, that's a committee. And they happen to have a school superintendent who is responsible for day-to-day operational matters. They're able to make decisions, they manage a staff, and so the school committee sort of oversees the superintendent, as I understand it. That is not the case in town government. We don't have a town manager, we have a town administrator. Therefore, the selectmen are effectively the managers of the town. And so think about it, we've got 3 CEOs, if you will, for a small, medium-sized corporation that need to get together and make decisions or collaborate in the ongoing operations of the town. That puts a burden on, in my view, the town administrator, that she has to go around and petition each of the selectmen. If I bring forward an issue and it's not something that I can take up at a selectmen meeting for one reason or another, then she may call the other 2 selectmen and try to get some input about an issue. When you raise that to 5, that is going to increase the traffic that the town administrator will have to deal with. And that's not inconsequential. I think if you were to check with the town administrator, she spends a fair amount of her time trying to coordinate among the selectmen. And so the selectmen is not a committee, it's a board. And it's vested with authorities that are put forth in the various ordinances and state law. I just think this is going to make things more difficult for the board to carry out its day-to-day functioning within the town. That's my perspective. It's great when you've got an organization when there's real clarity about who's responsible for what. And with 3 people sharing it, I understand that's a necessity and very appropriate. When you start sharing that among 5, and you then call upon one person to sort of try to herd those cats, it's a challenge. And I just think we need to be mindful of what that will do to the town administrator. And as a selectman, personally, I will find it challenging to be able to deal with issues that might come up in an efficient way. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Dave Winchell, Selectman. I was going to save my comments for Wednesday, but I agree with everything Tom just said. What you're doing in this situation here is you're trying to, the petition that was pushed through, they feel that it's going to bandage a situation that we have right now. I believe deep down inside that the situation we have right now is certain people want to be in this position. At the end of the day, If they can't get in the position, they make a way to become in this position, which does absolutely nothing down the road other than just snowball. Everything will snowball. If you look at having 2 more of me, okay, that side of the people that are putting this petition through would not like that, okay? If they get their type of person, fine. But you don't get anything other than what you already have. Okay, if say you had, and this isn't how it is now, but you can have 2 selectmen that ride one way and one that doesn't. Then the next election comes around and it may swing the other way. You can put 2 more people in that committee and it will do the same exact thing. The only thing that I've heard out of this tonight, this discussion tonight, that makes any sense is, yeah, sometimes we have 2 people on the board, one's out, we cancel a meeting because of whatever, COVID, and we had a lot of that with COVID, you know, but you still have that problem, one way or another. The more people have, the more issues you're gonna have. You know, I've been selectman, this is my 4th year now. I came into a situation where I had resigned from being a road commissioner and come on board to a select board that I wasn't very favorable with because they were there when I was selectman and I resigned on them. I came in with open eyes, open mind, and it's working, okay? But just by adding in a couple more people does not solve anything other than make chaos because you're gonna get people going out and doing things on their own. It becomes like Tom says, there's already a process. We're 3 mayors, the way you look at it. You add 5 people on that board, you're one step closer to a town council and a mayor, because that's what you're looking for, and that's exactly what this is all about. This is just one step towards a town manager. And honestly, at the end of the day, I really believe the town of Acton believes that things are being run right. The committees do their jobs, we do our jobs. Not everybody agrees with what we do, but at the end of the day, if they don't, they vote us out, and they vote somebody else back in. And by adding 2 more people on, all you're doing is just, you're gonna end up getting people voted onto this committee by default. Not committee, but select board by default. Only so many people run for this job as it is. Odd man out gets in, eventually. And that's what this is all about.
May I ask a question?
Yep.
Is it possible to do something similar to what Warrant and Finance does, which is have an alternate? That way, when there is one person out, there's another person that's at every meeting and can sit in and vote, or is that not possible?
No, that, you know, there's a lot of, you know, we get sworn in, what we do, the decisions we make are, you know, legit, you know, I mean, it can't be just a part-time deal. But one thing that we do is we will table something, if it's a big decision and say somebody's out of town or whatever, we'll table that decision. If it's something we believe is, you know, major. A lot of the stuff that we agree on is just housekeeping stuff, just rolling stuff along. But when it comes to a big decision, we do also try to make sure that we make sure all 3 people there, because at the end of the day, say if it's just Tom and I, okay, and it's a big decision, we don't want to make it look like we made that decision because the other person may not have wanted that and may wanted to, you know, voice their views, okay? By adding on 2 more people, what's that gonna do? Yeah, you're gonna have a couple more, I guess, opinions at the end of the day, but it could also create chaos at the same time.
Thank you.
Excuse me, sir.
I'll wait next time.
Nice try, Dick.
It seems that, by your comment, you have, let's say, for example, in your mind, that there's certain people that are wanting to get on this board, and there's really no telling of who will run for selectman or not. So, that kind of, in a sense, excuse me, I don't mean to offend anyone, but that's kind of narrow-minded.
What's narrow-minded?
That to increase the board to 5 is somewhat narrow-minded. And the reason I say that is because, I mean, some of the bullet points here, the diversity, the experiences of other people, where you're kind of just tying it into where there's certain people that want to get on the board. That's not really a good comment, because you don't know who would want to get on, who would run.
And you're right, that's making a broad picture of, certain people who may want to go on the board, and it's not my decision. But what I'm saying is this, okay? Every year, we typically only have one or sometimes people even go unopposed, very rarely nowadays, but usually one or two people. I think during Tom's election, there was a list of people that went on, which was wow, That does very rarely happens. So, if you look at the election coming up, say if this does pass, and you have two people on the ballot, only two people run, it's technically, they only have to get three votes. They don't have to get three votes. One vote, they're on. Okay? So what I'm saying is, what this will end up doing is, unless you have multiple people running, you're literally going to elect somebody by default. You very well could do that. Now, I'm not saying it's certain.
Isn't that possible with just having three, though? I mean,
well, if you have the three, okay, you're right.
I mean, the math is the same.
Right.
Yes, okay, but at the end of the day, that person's already been elected in. Okay, if someone goes, oh, you're right, one person could run for it, and that's a tragedy.
I'm just
It
saying
really is.
mathematically, that's not a good argument.
But now you're doing it in 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I've been around long enough to see what we're doing here, and, we're fiddling with the process. And, at the end of the day, I honestly don't believe that the town of Acton will vote for this. And, but, it is what it is. Obviously, if there's two more elected on, I'll work with them. That's the way it is. I just believe this is done in, bad circumstances.
I appreciate your opinion.
All right, fair enough.
Can I leave now?
Thank you very much.
I see it more as a matter of the character and quality of people who actually run for and get elected to the select board. Because I came from a town where there was 5 selectmen. And there were times when there wasn't a quorum. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. So whether there's 3 or 5, that's a non-issue to me. And as far as the comments about, I'm going to paraphrase, the board becoming quiet in molasses and things getting bogged down, that does happen with 5-member boards also. It's not...
You mean exclusively?
Exclusively? No, it can happen with any board, but it does happen with 5-member boards. I really haven't seen it with a 3-member board. I'm on the fence on this, only because it's such a small town, and I'm not convinced that 5 is really the place to go for this size town. But then, of course, the other thing is I came from a town where we had a town manager, and the select board actually manages the town manager. All the day-to-day business is handled by the town manager. You don't have an administrator, you have a town clerk. And so the dynamics is a little different, what I'm used to.
Can I make one more comment?
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you. One of the benefits that's been cited is diversity of thought. I actually think the committee structure is where that diversity comes from today. It comes from the road committee, the capital planning committee, the warrant and finance committee, all the various committees we have. We've got very dedicated people that are putting in their time. And as a selectman, quite frankly, I listen to those committees. I find because they've done the deeper analysis, quite frankly, than sometimes the selectmen have been able to do. And so that diversity of thought, I think, is already in place with that committee structure. I also think that if we went to a 5-person selectman, we'd have to evaluate it, but I personally think we'd be looking at a town manager in order to sort of facilitate bringing all these selectmen together. And I think, I do think that would be a natural outcome. That may not be a bad thing, but it would be quite a change for Acton. to have a town manager. But I could see with 5 selectmen that being an outcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
What is, do we know what, like, the population growth of Acton is like on an annual basis lately? Because it seems like it appears to be increasing more than it did, let's say, a decade ago. I'm just curious, I mean.
I don't know what the exact number is.
I see the 2,600 plus.
But I will say, I haven't seen the stats for this year, but the last few years, we've used up, if not all, most of our growth permits. And another thing is the school population isn't what it was 25 years ago. But that hit has been starting to creep back up again. So the exact numbers, no, Phil, I don't know, but our population is increasing.
I did a guesstimate on that, and it was around 7% over the last decade that I just a quick guesstimate, looking at population 10 years ago today. It was roughly around 7, it's single digit.
Now, this is gonna wind up being voted on by the town regardless of what anybody says at this point, right?
Yep.
Right.
Realistically.
But the population was dipping for a while, wasn't it? Until the pandemic, basically?
I didn't
believe really the population, like Dennis said, the school's gone up a little bit, but it went way down for a while and has rised back up. And I think that probably most of the population increase in town is the people who used to be summertime and now turning into full-time residents. Right. So, I mean, a lot of the growth permits due to that too.
I wouldn't be surprised if more retirees just moving into the town.
Because I remember the population being down around 2,300 a few years when I first moved here 3 years ago. And I know it has been coming back up, and a lot of it since the pandemic. Acton's a very attractive location.
According to statistics also, now that the majority of the population is not returning to work, and a lot of them are working from home type of situations, I do see a lot of mass people moving into Maine. I don't know if 7% over a decade is like 182 people over the course of 10 years, but I mean, there's a lot of home buildings and a lot of clearing of areas that are going on that I see in my neck of the woods, per se, and I drive around different areas and I see other homes being built.
Well, there's a website called City Data, which you can pull up Acton, and this particular part gives single-family new house construction building permits, and it goes from 97 all the way to 2019. And 2019, there were 16 buildings, 2018, 17, 17 was 17 buildings, 2016 was 19, 2014 was 23, 2009 was 28. So those are that's just new construction here in Acton.
That doesn't mean new people coming in.
Right.
I mean, you know, that's kind of a,
Well, I mean, I can only give you the data that's here.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
but these are new construction building permits.
We'd have to look at like the census.
yeah, and I think,
You have to get this, you have to get the data from the code enforcement officer
right.
on conversions
We didn't hear you.
from seasonal to full-time and also on new buildings.
we don't,
It wasn't bad.
didn't
I
think,
know
we
that-
talking about Mousum again, Dave?
Well, I said 23 of the permits are probably on White Shore Drive.
Dave?
I
But
know
if
a
you
lot
look at
of summer
inflation
people,
today,
I can't hear.
it's slowing down.
a lot of summer people are starting to be up here more often.
Well, I said, you know,
And I'm
you have
seeing it in my
to get data from
area.
the CEO
Yeah.
on conversions from seasonal to full-time and also on new
A
construction.
lot of people aren't even bothering to do that, they're just doing it.
They're just
They're
moving
just,
in.
yeah, because a lot of the houses are ready for season, and they're just moving up here. Whether it's, the building permits are seasonal or not, they're,
Thank you for bringing this up, Phil. There's good distraction.
But wouldn't there be a
I
reflection?
didn't think it would be that much of one, but
Wouldn't there be a reflection though, as far as like, let's say for example, car registrations, that type of situation that would give us a better picture of what the increase would have been?
Aren't our excise taxes going up astronomically?
Not astronomically, no.
No?
It went up quite a bit in the last couple of years.
yeah, the 2 years I was curious about, which weren't in the data yet, or, you know, because this is when I've seen the huge increases, the last 2 years, or I should say it's
When all the
more
fuel
visible.
checks went out, everybody was up buying new cars and this and that, was the price of the cars went up, so the amount of tax you pay on them went up, so it affected the last 2 years.
Right, but that doesn't take in consideration
New people.
new.
Yeah, none of that has to do
people.
with
It
new
just-
residents.
You know,
People get
and
more
what
expensive
both of
vehicles.
the,
And there'd be really no way to extrapolate that data.
what both selectmen said though is,
Can I ask Mr. Waterhouse a direct question after hearing things?
Yeah, you wanna come up, Ron,
sir.
please?
Ron,
This is very well written, I appreciate it.
I didn't write it.
Oh, well,
I stole it.
oh, okay.
But
At least you're honest.
those are all valid points. And your question?
And I'm assuming that why you submitted this is because you believe in what's in here. And
I do.
That's the end, that's it.
Most definitely.
That's your-
Number one, I have no desire to run for selectman, okay? None,
That answers my question.
okay? I'm not interested. I ran 3 times, I got beat 3 times, I'm done. You know, but we did have at least 2, maybe 3 people, 3 other people who tried to run and were unsuccessful. Not to say that, you know, they didn't get votes, they definitely got votes, you know. Again, like I said, I have no interest in being a selectman. I'm done with that. I'm over it. But I do think that the town would benefit from having a 5-member board. Number one, Jennifer is far too overworked, okay? Far too overworked. She has her fingers in more places, and I'm not saying that she shouldn't be coordinating, okay? But if you have a 5-man board, guess what? Some of those things can be delegated to the selectmen instead of waiting for Jennifer to dig it up and present it to the selectmen. Not saying that they're not doing their job, okay? Not at all. But we already pay almost for a town manager, okay? Jennifer is currently making about 86 or 89,000. The average town manager pay for the county of York is between 71,000 and 93,000.
That's because she holds 3 hats, correct?
Correct. You know, and I'm not saying anything about, you know, whether or not she earns the money. She definitely earns the money with all of the stuff that she has to deal with. But I think a lot of the stuff that she deals with should be dealt with more directly by the selectmen. Okay? That's just my opinion. Everybody knows what opinions are.
Thank you, Roland.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? I'll be here for the public hearing on the 5th.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Everybody ready to vote? I guess so. All in favor? Those opposed? 5 to 1 in favor. Article 2, regarding the future of Acton's annual town meeting, which form of voting do you prefer? I want to do this right, to make sure that it doesn't confuse anybody. this is a little different than what I thought. I would request that you make a motion in favor of an open town meeting referendum or secret ballot. Make the motion in that manner so that it'd be a little easier for Jen to write it on the...
All right, I'll make a motion to recommend the open town meeting referendum.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion.
The one thing that I've noticed in going to town meetings is usually when the amount of people that are there from the very beginning is somewhat encouraging. But then as soon as the school budget is done, more than half the people leave that have been there. So of the people that are left, they're making the decision for the 2,600 plus people as far as an open town meeting. I think that the number and results of when they did the secret ballot and there was more participation, even though at a town meeting you can call for a written ballot, it just, to me, it shows that people are somewhat seem to be more in favor of a secret ballot.
What was the participation rate at the Zoom public hearings that year?
That I have no idea.
Where people could sit at home and watch a meeting in their living room. And many people did not attend.
What was the number of voters that came out during the years of COVID when there was no open town meeting?
Yeah, that I don't know.
576 people went to ballot box that year.
576?
But that's a little deceiving, right? Because that was also elections.
There was a governor
State
election
elections.
that year.
So it wasn't just
Wasn't it?
budget.
How many people showed up for the school meeting in March or whenever we voted for that, when it was
That was in
at the
April.
town, in April, it was at the town hall, referendum,
About 90.
and I believe 98.
93,
93.
and I was sitting here.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that you have to understand. You've got to compare apples and apples. There's a big difference when there's an election going on, because most generally, an election would generate 400 to 500 voters at
Right.
polls.
But it goes back to,
With a budget part though, Ray, if you just put that out of there, and if you're just voting on the budget, historically, you don't have those numbers.
correct? You don't have the numbers.
No.
Whether it be open town meeting or secret ballot.
Yeah.
Let's look at it from that perspective, okay? So, I guess there is no comparison of apples to apples because there's never a time when it's only that you're voting on either a budget and the warrant articles other than at the open town meeting, correct?
No, the school budget.
No, school budget.
The school budget is a referendum.
I just don't see the numbers of the people that wait around and look at all the warrants, the 90, 80, 90 warrants that are presented.
I would like to see the data for at least 5 or 6 years back from when the town had annual town meeting in whatever it was, March or April, compared to what it was pre-pandemic for 5 years, equivalent period, then you'll see whether or not it's because of the time of the year that there's poor participation, or is it actual people will come out and vote, like we said, regarding when there's other elections.
And that's a good point, because I believe at one of the public hearings that they had about this particular warrant, that was brought up by the public.
I mean, that's what we really have to look at, so you eliminate all of this guesswork, whether or not there's elections, or whether it's just budget issues. Go back to when the town meeting was, at least 5 years worth of data.
Longer than that.
Pardon?
You have to go back further than 5 years.
No, 5 years worth of data, not go back 5 years. 5 years worth of data prior to the switch from March or April to June, and then 5 years prior to the pandemic, 5 years worth of data. Compare those two data sets and see what the population participation rate was. Was it 5% of the population? Was it 20% of the population, as opposed to the second data set?
I'll speak from ignorance on this with a question. To me, it looks like a simple question, with the purpose being you're trying to get as many people involved in voting, regardless of why they're voting, as possible. And would a secret ballot increase that likelihood or not? Is that not what this is about, if simplified?
I'm not sure that that's the goal. Because at a town meeting, someone could go and ask for secret ballot on every item.
Right, so, okay, then I'll make it even more simple. What is the purpose of this article? The question, what are we trying to do?
Okay, there was two gentlemen, that brought it to the selectmen. And there was talk about them doing a petition, to get it changed, to a referendum vote. And working with the selectmen found out that ultimately it's their decision whether we have a referendum or an open town meeting anyway. As we just did this past year with a school vote. That was a referendum vote, and that was a decision of the Board of Selectmen. The school board requested it, but the selectmen are the ones that make those decisions. And so then in June, we had an open town meeting for the municipal end. So the selectmen have the ability, if they want to, have a referendum question, they have the ability to say, we're not going to have a town meeting. We're going to do it all referendum. I believe that's what you found out, wasn't it, Tom?
Yes.
Yeah. So what they're doing now is, they decided to do a poll to see what the people thought. And so this is the whole purpose of this.
Where would this secret ballot take place? Do you still have to physically be
here?
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be an all-day thing. You'd come and you'd vote,
An absentee ballot,
just like normal.
where you come in and vote.
Yeah.
But you'd still have to, they would more than likely, like they did a few years ago, during COVID, they would condense the warrant. So instead of having 75 articles or whatever, they'd probably reduce it down to maybe 50. Or as their warrant, they could reduce it down to 1 if they wanted to. And you just have a up or down vote on the total budget. Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
I think it was great when the outcome, when it became known that the selectmen had the option. And I think it depends on what's in those warrants. I think we've had flat taxes for, how many years, David?
Well, they've gone down and back up 5.
Yeah, but basically taxes have been flat. And usually tax rate is what gets a lot of people out to vote. And at least that's been my experience in town meetings. And we're probably, I think we've voted to hold taxes flat again this year. That's probably not going to last forever. Inflation is eventually going to make its way into the town budget, and we're going to be looking at, if we continue to have 8-9% inflation, that eventually is going to make its way into the tax rate. And that may create an interest in the town to want to get together and talk about that. And that's what you do in a town meeting. You get a chance to talk about it. So the fact that the selectmen have the option, based on that level of interest, at least that's what, as I understand it, I think that will serve the town well, depending upon what sort of issues there are in those warrants and what sort of town interest there is in them. So I think the ballot is this poll is great. Let's find out what people really want to do. My guess is they're going to want to go to a secret ballot. But at some point in the future, we may find that they just want to get together and talk about it, and we may find ourselves with a town meeting at some point in the future.
So the real purpose is to determine how the people in the town feel, and in the end, it could still be left up to...
It's to give the selectmen a better read on what the townspeople want. And at least that's what I see getting out of this, and I think that's great. What do people want to do? If they want a ballot, well...
That answers my question.
Yeah.
Phil, this is non-binding.
It's non-binding, yeah. But, I think as a selectman, if it's a reflection of the residents of the town, I'm going to listen to that. Because, I'm trying to represent them.
The town meeting has changed over the last 20 years too. There was a time in the spring, coming out of the winter, the people really looked forward to the town meeting. You had the 4-H down there, you had everybody's coming out of winter, and it's a big thing, and it was a big social thing. But at the same time, we had the school budget, we had the town budget, we had, we had great speakers like John Winchell Sr., who would talk very intelligently about things for a length of time, and he would be part of the town meeting. And you would look forward to these people. You might not see them all year, and they would come.
Yeah.
It's changed. It's changed. The people don't realize that this is one form of democracy, and right thousands of miles away, right today, Putin, what is he doing to the people? I mean, so look at the choice they have and look at the choice that we have. I just think it's become modernized democracy, modernized politics, in the sense that people just don't have the time. Well, they don't have time because they're working too hard to pay their bills, to pay their tax bills, that they have the time to go and converse on the matters. But it's changed, and I think eventually we're going to be headed toward some sort of a cyber democracy, in the sense everything's going to be done either online or whatever, because...
I hope you're wrong. But
well,
maybe you're wrong.
Maybe you are. But, I mean, it's part of the whole thing. And the small little town of Acton has gone from this, 20 years ago. Well, you remember, Dennis.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I've heard a lot of is people saying, well, I don't have the time on a Saturday morning, but I have time to go and vote. Well, if you're only even looking at, oh, sorry, Dave.
Oh, no, go ahead. You were talking before I got up here.
It was a close tie.
50 warrants. We're gonna have hearings so people can come. How many people are gonna go to those public hearings to find out what those are? Even if you get a copy of the warrant ahead of time and you read it, when someone says, oh, we'll go in and we'll be done in 10 minutes. No, you're not gonna be done in 10 minutes. Not if you're, unless you go to an up or down, kind of vote. You're voting budget or you're not voting the budget.
I don't,
That has happened in towns where it has,
I don't believe we were planning on doing anything like that.
oh, no, I don't believe we
Because
have.
you're taking an entire budget, clustering it in one spot where you have so many things that just leaves things loading up certain spots, because you just can't do that. It's like bills they do in Congress. We don't want to do stuff like
no, we
that.
don't.
Okay, but
Absolutely.
get back to the election part of it. There will be an election, usually at a selectman or something like that. There will be elections, so people will be coming for that stuff also, okay? The turnouts that we've had, I mean, I was road commissioner almost 10 years, and then 3 years as selectman, and the only time we'd ever get a really large amount of people at a town meeting would be some sort of, either we're voting in a road, or there's some major thing on there that's getting everybody all stirred up, because typically, I can guarantee if you look back, if you get 50, if you get 60 people at a town meeting, I'd be like, wow. But like this last one, I think it was 42, and ended up 24 at the end of it. That's kind of...
35.
Was it
35 at the beginning?
Was it 35? I thought it was 42, yeah. But it was end up 24 at the end of it. And the unfortunate part about that is, you know, this is something that we've been discussing for 3 years. And Mr. Walsh, who spoke up here, he was a selectman, he was pushing for it back in the day, and I'm like, no, you know, I like going to town meeting and arguing with, you know, everybody from the Warrant and Finance and everything, you know, but at the end of the day,
We like our...
I'm just being sarcastic, but at the end of the day, what I've been hearing from the public is, town meeting's rigged. Everybody gets all their buddies there, they vote for this stuff, then they leave, and we've seen that many times. You know, if you want to get your road approved, haul in a bunch of people, bang, as long as you got more than 25 votes out of 50, right? Your road's approved, you know? So, you know, we've made some really big decisions in the town of Acton where, incurs a lot of costs onto the townspeople with 25 people voting. That's the way I look at it. So I've heard also that at the end of the day, and I've seen this in being an elected official, okay? I'm a road commissioner, I'm sitting in the back, they're voting on my budget, okay? Last thing you want to do is vote against somebody else's, right? So you're in that point where, you know, you're like, man, that's a lot of money, but I'm voting for them because, you know, I don't want them not voting for mine, you know? You see a lot of stuff, and I watched another elected official do that one day. He, you know, partially put his thing up like this so he could just see it, but he voted for it.
It sounds like Washington.
It was, yeah, something like that. So at the end of the day, by doing it as a secret ballot, these people are able to, you know, we send out the stuff, like we did during COVID, we sent out a thing to everybody. Everybody got the warrant. You don't do that when you do it at a town meeting. But everybody got the warrant that year. Everybody got to see exactly what they were voting on. Whether or not they voted on it or not, at least they got to see it all because it landed in their mailbox. And then if they do feel like voting on it, they can go in that booth right over there or any one of those booths right there, and they don't have to worry about anybody looking over their shoulder and worrying about whether or not they voted against, you know, the roads, or they voted against the fire department or whatever, okay? It's secret. Now, at the end of the day, the only thing we're really doing is we're taking away the town vote by putting up your thing. Because at the end of the day, we're gonna have public hearings. Now, we're gonna publicize those public hearings just like a town meeting, where that's where you get your input. Okay, and I think instead of making an impulse vote, you're gonna be able to go to that public hearing and listen to the facts, go home, look at your thing and say, you know what, I'm gonna vote against that or for it, because I got my information, I have time to think about that. But at town meeting, you're sitting around all your friends and stuff, and you're like, you know, this is what I've gotten from complaints from the people from the town of Acton. And I get on and I talk a lot, okay? And so when this town meeting came this year, and I saw half everybody just leave at a certain point, I thought, you know what? You know, maybe we ought to try something different here. And that candidates night was a real wake up. You know, that was a big deal at candidates night. How are we going to increase voter participation? All I've heard is, well, we'll change the date. Well, you can change the date. We used to have it in March. Well, it snows in March. Okay, we could very well have town meeting canceled because of the snowstorm, whether or not people are on vacations. Marguerite, you said in public that you don't like to waste your beautiful days.
Nope.
I got a kick out of one individual that sent an email to the town complaining about going to this referendum vote. Didn't even show up at the meeting this year, okay? So it gives everybody more days to vote, because you're gonna be able to do your mail-in ballots and everything else, and it's gonna give you time to think about it, and you're actually gonna get your thing in the mail.
Is it safe to say, Dave, you think that secret ballot's a good idea?
I do now, because, okay, we got 42 votes. If we got 80, we increased it. Okay, if we have 80 people vote at the box, we've increased it by double, or 84 or whatever. Okay, we've doubled our vote. So anything to get more people involved, to me, is a better thing. Because I tell you what, back in the day when I was road commissioner, if I wanted to get my budget passed, I could get my budget passed. Okay, I can tell you, I'm probably the only person in the town of Acton who's ever amended his own article at town meeting. Okay, and I had to argue with the moderator and the selectmen because they said I wasn't allowed to do it. Okay, and that's another point that we also got to realize here is people who go up and make amendments to their articles. Okay, when we put those articles on paper, we send those articles to a lawyer to make sure these articles are legit. When you turn around at a town meeting and you start amending these articles, at the end of the day, we don't know if they're legit or whether or not we can do that or not. Okay, that's one thing that bothered me, was when I went to amend my article, because the selectmen at the time would not add in to, Scott and I wanted time and a half on holidays, and they wouldn't add that in. I got up and I made an amendment to amend the article to add the verbiage, time and a half on holidays. Okay, they said I couldn't do it because I was changing the dollar amount. No, I'm changing the verbiage. I was able to do it. I did it. Okay, that's one point, I guess, arguing against my point. But at the end of the day, we didn't know if it was legal or not. So we could have amended the article and it wasn't legit. So by doing what we're doing right now, we may have to condense the articles a little bit. The biggest thing we have is our social services. Social services is really one that takes up a lot of room. Our zoning stuff, we may have to do something different. I think that's something that, but, we're gonna look at it, but, we figured we put this poll out there and see what the people think. And if this is what the people want, then we'll do it. We can do it. We have the power just to do it anyways, but we don't feel that's the way we should be doing things. We want to make sure that everybody gets their input.
All right, David, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
You keep saying you can go to public hearings and voice your opinion. How many articles have you adjusted due to the public information you got at public hearings? Does that really alter the articles that you put forward?
We typically, the finance committee, we have altered.
That's what I'm saying.
We have, but typically the altering happens at this level, at the finance committee, and all those workshops we have up to it. Okay. The public hearing will literally, you're not gonna be able to make an amendment, but the public hearing is gonna be all the departments, the finance committees, all the committees there, and the public, so we can get everybody's, point of view on what they think this article, the warrant's all about. It's a technicality, but I think it'll be good informational more than anything. Then people can go back and vote. They can vote yes or no. But changing the articles, usually typically, we try not to, but, the Warrant Finance has come to us before and said, well, blah, 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 before, we get too far into the process. After we've written the article, then we only ask for a recommendation from you anyways. But we do have room, we try to oblige, I believe. I hope so. Maybe not, but.
If the citizenry are pressed on time currently, and that's part of the reason why they don't attend the town meeting, how is it relying on more public hearings, more meetings, going to free up time so that they can actually participate at all these additional.
Nothing says it's gonna, but you're gonna have it on that TV, on that TV screen.
For people
okay?
who actually watch TV.
And YouTube, and I guess there's people who actually do. You know, I don't, but, try not to anyways, but, we're just trying to do what we can to make sure that everybody can make a vote on whatever.
It won't be an 8-hour event.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I've found is when people say, well, I'm not gonna waste my day to go down, there's only 35 people there, and it's the same bunch that goes to town hall every week anyways, and they get whatever they want, okay? That's what we hear, okay? We're gonna try to change that up a little bit and make it so that, you know, yeah, nobody wants, put it this way, at the end of the day, like Tom says, our tax rate has been hovering at $12 a thousand for 3 or 4 years now. Okay, it hasn't gone up. People stay home typically because they like their tax bill. They feel they get the services they want and they stay home. The only time they come out is when something crazy goes on and then they're usually here. But that doesn't typically happen at town meeting. Like I said, the only time you'll ever get good participation at town meeting is whether or not, someone's getting their road voted on or discontinued or something like that. Other than that, it's usually housekeeping.
Thank you, David. Anybody got any other questions for Dave?
I do.
All right, go ahead, Ray.
The way that the warrant article is written here, let's just take one scenario, that the majority of the people do request the open town meeting, and that passes.
Yep.
Okay, so what you're saying to us here is that if that happens, then that will continue to be the format.
I believe that. Coming from somebody who's not a selectman, I would say that the select board, what we've talked about is, we're putting this poll out there, and if the majority of the people of town of Acton feel that town meeting is the way to go, I believe that's, and I'm not gonna speak for the other two, but I believe that's the way we will go.
Okay. The second part of that question is, if the majority of people vote for secret ballot, would it have to be tied in with a November vote? Would it not be able to be at the same time that the town meeting would be?
Yeah, this is, what they would be doing, Ray, is, this is just giving them, a poll from the people.
No, I understand that.
So, town meeting would still be, assumably in June.
It'd be the same time we do our elections in June.
Yeah.
Instead of doing, so typically we'll have our elections in June, then the following Saturday morning is when we have our town meeting. We would just delete the town meeting on the Saturday morning, then you don't have to worry about Father's Day anymore. But you would literally be voting on your budget the same day that you vote on your new selectman or your whatever. And at the same time, you'd be also electing your finance committee members, your road committee members, all your committees that are elected at town meeting would be elected then too. Which I think is a great idea.
Dave,
That would might be the intention, but until the town changes, some ordinances that regulates the way these people are elected, they would still have to have an open town meeting for elections until the ordinance was changed.
It all depends on what happens with this, you know, we'd have to look at that. But Joyce, you had a question?
yeah, I was gonna say everybody says, okay, we're gonna go referendum secret ballot. It's kind of like town meeting. It doesn't mean it always has to be that way. You have it that way for a couple years and you say, good God, this doesn't really work for us. You have the authority to change it again. Is
Well,
that not-
the way we have it
is that
set
not
up right now, we can do that.
Yeah.
See, we were originally gonna put it on as an actual question saying, okay, we're gonna go, you know, ballot.
Right,
But
right.
then when it came back from MMA saying, no, you've already gone that route, you can do it anyways.
And that was because of COVID, correct?
Well, no, because of the way that the school board's done and everything else, it literally said that we could already do so. So instead of turning around and putting it on a ballot and then having it, fail.
Right.
Then when we'd have a COVID situation, we would not be able to do it. So we didn't want to put ourselves in that predicament. I think we're in a really good situation right now by putting this out as a poll, get an idea what's going on. And if it comes back majority, then it's the select board's decision to make that decision. And then we'll work it out from there.
Thank you, David.
You good?
I don't have a question for David at all, but I have a comment, a short comment. I don't believe that we have the right or duty to police people doing their research and listening at a town meeting or anything. We have a duty to put the information out there, and it's the citizens' responsibility to listen or research as much or as little as they want. But I think we have to, our duty is to make it as easy as possible for people to vote. I don't think it's fair that we talk about, well, if they don't come, they don't get to listen to this, they don't get to have a conversation. I don't think that we can police that.
You kind of took me off guard here. Margarita, I'm not sure what.
Sorry. It was mentioned a couple times about, well, if we don't have the meeting, then people can't get together and talk about it and communicate, and they're not doing their research on this article, so they're voting on this warrant, and they don't have the proper research behind it because they weren't at town meeting. I don't think it's fair that we police that.
Yeah. Well, is it something, did I say that?
No, not you, but it was brought up. But it was brought up at this meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone
I
said
don't think
that.
anybody said that, actually.
Not in those words, but it was brought up.
Yeah.
Well, if they don't go, they don't get to listen to this and communicate.
Oh, and I will say that some
That's a true
people aren't
statement.
going to look.
Right,
They're
and it
not
was
gonna
mentioned at the
read,
last
they're not
meeting
gonna-
we had, the last Warrant and Finance.
Okay. It limit debate. It would definitely
Yeah.
limit
It
debate.
will limit
if
debate, is the way of putting it. It
You don't
limits
have a
debate.
public meeting.
Right.
It takes away a key element of community.
Yeah, it does. And that's why,
Joe's comment on democracy, it takes a little bit of democracy.
Well, it's a key element. I mean, that's
It's-
when the town has the opportunity to get together, whether you choose to go or not, that's your choice.
Exactly.
But that is the key period when everyone has the opportunity to meet and discuss whatever it is their issues are.
and the nice thing about the state of Maine is we're a home rule state, so the towns can make their own rules. And the rules, if you look around the state, honestly, are all over the place. You have 5-member boards, 3-member boards, town managers, city managers, administrator. I mean, it really is all over the place just because the states allow us to make these decisions ourselves. Myself, personally, as anybody knows, I believe in the open town meeting. I've stated that, I've been doing it for
That's why I was asking.
50 years now.
What's the purpose? And that's all it is. It's a poll.
I think that every element that we give up in a democracy
Totally for gathering.
is a step closer
It's
to
a good idea,
losing
because that's all this is doing, is asking the people.
what I believe in.
It's nothing else.
And I'm one of these same people that go to town meeting every year, go to selectmen's meetings as much as I can, in other meetings in town, because I like to know, what I'm voting on, I wanna be informed. There are people in my family that are not gonna go to a selectmen's meeting, they doubtfully gonna go to a town meeting. And it's kind of, they look at it kind of like you stated, Margarita, that they will come out and vote and spend the time to do that. There's two things that you could very easily, you're taking a chance with. And you are at town meeting, except you can have a debate and hopefully, the right side will win. About 15 years ago probably, when the state changed the laws when it came to schools, you had to do two things. You had to approve the budget as we see it and at a town meeting, and you also had to approve it in the polls. They congested the whole thing and made it smaller than the whole warrant. And the very first year they had to do that, the school budget exceeded $5 million. And the school was told, if you bring it down under 5 million, there's a pretty good chance, you'd have a lot better chance of it passing. Well, they decided to roll the dice, and the budget got voted down behind the polls. And so they did some more campaigning, and this is when the school thing was in June. And so they did some more campaigning and decided that they was gonna try the same number again. Went back to the voting up here, it got voted down again. Not for lack of trying from the school and trying to get support. So the third time they dropped it, I think it was like a 4.99. And the budget passed. And that's when the school decided to move their budget from June to April, because the town, unlike the school, if the school's budget's voted down, it can take a whole year to get it passed, and they operate on last year's numbers, okay? If the town's budget is voted down, come July 1st, they're done.
Mr. Chairman.
And they can't operate until they have a budget passed. And that's one of the chances you take. Yes, Ray?
I believe there's a motion on the floor. Can that motion be repeated, please?
Can be repeated?
Yes. Because I believe that you had made a comment for it to read one way or another.
Right.
I think my motion was to, what was it? To recommend.
To recommend.
An open town meeting referendum.
Yeah.
I have an issue with the way that is presented, because the way that the warrant is written here, it's asking the town people, what way do you want it? If we point to one particular way or another, then as a committee, we're recommending that they vote that way.
Yes.
And we're not giving people a choice. And that's not what this warrant is about.
We do that with every warrant article, right? We always make a recommendation on how we think it ought to be.
But again, this article is only asking for the public's opinion on which way do you prefer to vote.
We have to make a recommendation.
Right, should this article...
on this warrant.
So basically, all we're doing is saying which way we prefer.
Right,
That's
so
all.
wouldn't a better question be that we recommend that the article pass, or we approve the article as written, and instead of saying that it should be open or it should be secret? I don't think that that's up to us.
Because the article isn't saying anything right.
It is.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is. Which form of voting do you prefer?
Right.
And you have a choice.
But that's not part of, this isn't.
We don't write the
It's
question.
an opinion.
I agree with the question, though. Our job is not to write articles. Matter of fact, we're barred
right.
from writing articles.
Yeah, we're not.
It's not we're not writing the
Our
article.
job is to give opinion on the article that's presented, and the article is presented is worded as a choice.
Yeah.
We should be voting up or down on the article as presented.
Correct.
Not rewording the article, which is what
Is what I
the
did.
current motion is.
Correct.
That's a point of order. That has to be dismissed. You know,
This is
you
why I was
can't-
confused on the purpose of it.
That was running in the back of my head, something just didn't seem right, because
So how do you,
you would make a motion to accept the article as written, and if people say yes, then you're agreeing with the article as written. If you say no, then you're disagreeing with the article as written. It goes back to the selectmen can massage it or submit it on their own, because it's non-binding. You know, this could be 0-6, and it's a non-binding vote. They can still go and submit it as it is, or they can massage it and change the wording.
so how do we advise the people like we're supposed to be?
How do we advise people?
Yes, we're supposed to be advising the taxpayers.
You advise the taxpayers by how you vote on the article as presented by the selectmen.
We're saying the article is good.
This is the article that was presented by the selectmen.
Right.
So you say, yes, we agree with the way it was written, or you say, no, we disagree with the way it was written.
Yeah.
And if you say no, it goes back to the selectmen, and they get to decide how they want to present the article. And if they change it, they can send it back to you.
So what you're saying is you don't believe, Charlie and Ray, that we ought to have a consensus?
I don't either.
I don't think you should have a consensus on
No, we
anything.
shouldn't.
I don't either, Dennis.
Not on how we would vote, not on how we would.
This is why I was so confused on the purpose of it.
I don't think we should vote as a group in consensus, all agreeing or all disagreeing on any issue. We're all supposed to be independent here.
Correct.
No, that's why we count the votes.
Right. So what you do is you make a motion, you'd have to retract your motion.
Yeah, rescind that one, yeah.
I rescind that motion.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to accept the article as presented by the selectmen.
I second.
Okay, now it's on the floor. You can go on whether or not there's more discussion, but the issue now is if you vote yes, this goes to the selectmen and they're going to publish it as is. If you say no, that sends a message to them that it's not ready for prime time and it has to be either modified or rejected.
Right, and it has nothing to do with how we feel about how they should
So
vote.
what you guys are
Correct.
saying,
Which we
wasted
should.
the last 45 minutes.
Correct.
Basically.
And
But it was great
Ray should have
discussion,
brought
though.
this up 45 minutes ago, actually.
Right.
No, it was good discussion. It was healthy.
Yeah, I think it was a healthy discussion as far as people can see where basically some of us are leaning one way or another. But at the same time, that's not what the article is
I'm
stating.
no longer confused, Dennis.
The article is stating,
You are.
what do you guys want to do?
I still am, so. But I'll live with it. I'll live with it.
Excuse us,
That fills a trouble.
Dan?
I don't normally get up and talk at these types of meetings.
I'm glad you are there.
Well, so am I. I am a very educated voter. I've lived in Acton 30 years, not as long as some folks in this room, obviously. But I'm informed. And I'm informed because I go out of my way to be informed. I would like to know what the article is written as verbatim today.
Regarding the future of Acton's annual town meetings, which form of voting do you prefer? Open town meeting, referendum, or there's another box, you check one, secret ballot?
Okay, so this is a non-bonding question, correct?
right.
In my opinion, the select board is doing the correct thing by asking the public, the people they represent, how they want town meeting to happen.
Exactly.
I feel as town representatives, can't think of the word I want to use now. As a committee of the town, you should also be asking the town, how do you want to proceed? What the question says is regardless. I believe with Ray, or I stand with Ray in that this is the way the question is written. Do you want to present it to people like that? Do you recommend we present that? And how do you recommend people vote? Yes, we recommend that you vote yes. No, we recommend that you vote no.
And
How
I
you
agree
feel
that-
about the actual question is regardless at this point,
I
because
agree
it's a
that people
poll.
it should be put to the people, I agree.
Yeah, yeah. There is no yes or no, it's which one do you prefer?
And essentially, it's a yes or no, right? Based on which checkbox you check.
Right.
We agree with how the article is written, or we don't?
Correct.
So I guess,
No, the article is not a yes or no regarding which way you want to go.
Right.
Okay.
what our duty here is to accept or reject the article as presented to us.
Correct.
Correct. And
It doesn't matter how many check boxes there are.
I think as a committee of the town, you would be neglecting your duties if you didn't just say, we agree with this question or we don't agree with this question, regardless of how you feel individually about the question.
Right.
So would it be fair to say that, because I'm looking at this, trying to look at a different way, in that I would take the boxes off. That's actually part of the question. How do you want to do it? Do you want to do it open referendum or secret ballot?
I think the
that's whole
questions are
question.
reasonable, right? So
Right.
you're giving the townspeople options.
Right, that's the whole question.
Regarding the future of our town meetings, would you prefer that they are an open town meeting?
Right.
Or that they're a secret referendum?
That is the whole question.
Perhaps, and this is not really a conversation for this venue, perhaps there's a third option where you have an open town meeting where, best case, 60 people participate in. By the way, that's about 2% of the population of Acton. And then you have a referendum vote a week later, or 3 days later, or however the calendar falls, right? But that's not how this question is presented to this
Right.
committee.
No, we have no reason to be dictating or giving our, I don't care what anyone else thinks, to be honest with you. That's not what we're doing here. That's why I was so confused earlier, Dennis. Now I am no longer confused, because it's really simple, as Ray's pointed out. We're just saying we agree with the way this is written. Go ahead and present it as it's written, period. The questions are relevant.
But whether we agree with this, well, see, this is the problem.
But it's just a
And I
question.
appreciate what you're saying, Dan. In my experience, we have never dealt with a poll on a warrant for a referendum question, you know what I mean? And this is why, when we started out, why I was a little bit, I wanted to make sure that everything was, what would work good with the town clerk and stuff like that. So, what we're saying is now, if we still need to make a recommendation on the warrant, will we approve this article?
As written.
As written.
That's it.
And that's what we need to do.
That's all we need.
Right, that's
your
you're
motion
advising
on
the
the floor.
townspeople, as a committee, this committee recommends that the town approve this article or disapprove this article.
That's where I was trying to get to.
That's all you're doing as a committee,
You're
I
a big
think.
help. You cleared my mind. You had 7 people here that couldn't clear my mind. And you did it. Thank you.
That was all I wanted to say. I've been thinking about that for 20 minutes now.
Oh my gosh,
Thank
come
you.
on, 20 minutes ago.
So, I will entertain a motion.
There is a motion.
Motion's on the
It's
table.
already been seconded.
Floor.
It's been seconded.
Already been seconded.
Yeah.
Time for a
A
vote.
motion can only be made by a member,
And I make a motion that we accept.
a full-time member, I
Excuse me.
apologize.
No, anybody can make a motion. Correct. I can't vote
Right,
as an alternate,
Right.
but any member can participate and make a motion.
Which you did,
Yeah.
yeah.
and
And Ray
Ray seconded
seconded.
it already, so.
All right. You guys want to vote?
Yes.
Yes.
No more
Okay, all in
discussion.
favor? 6-0, thank you. And we'll try to get this,
Mr. Chairman, may I please, because to record this properly with all the talk. We had a motion from Leslie that she rescinded. Okay. Then, the motion came on the floor from
Me.
Charlie, and Ray, you seconded it, correct?
Correct.
I just wanted that to be correct.
Yep.
and the motion was,
To move the article as
To
presented.
move the article as presented,
all right.
and it was 6-0.
The only other thing-
Now, Ken,
Go ahead, Charlie.
sorry, can the board, meaning through you, send a addendum recommendation to the selectmen on modifications or anything like that? So, I mean, that is a venue that you could utilize
But there's a pretty good chance at this point, Charlie, if they changed anything now, we'd have to have another Warrant and Finance Committee meeting. And the way I understood it from Jen, is when they have the public hearing to meet the timetable, the selectmen are gonna have to sign the warrant that night.
Yeah.
So then the town hearing, or the hearing that we're gonna have on October 5th is a non-issue.
That's the night the selectmen are signing the warrant.
So there's no opportunity for amendment or modification to any of the warrant articles then?
Not to have it.
So the public hearing then means nothing?
For the secret ballot time.
By timing it that way, the public hearing means nothing?
Right. Because the timing for the absentee ballots, I think she said was 6th or 7th of October.
Yeah.
For people to have this.
Well, then,
What is it?
what I'm saying is that the comments that the public is gonna present at the hearing have no weight then.
No.
So then, it's a little bit disrespectful to the citizenry.
Well, it's been that way for a long time.
I know, but
It wasn't done
that doesn't mean that that's the right way to do it.
It wasn't done that way. It was not done.
We were kind of, because of the November timeframe and everything, stuffing it together. But I don't know if there's any way we can do this tonight or not, but I know you voted on the article, to approve the article as written. I think it would be helpful, though, if we could get, some sort of vote, something we can record on the question itself from this committee. You don't believe you can do that?
No.
Well, what you'd have is you'd have the 6-0.
No, that's what they,
No, that's for to approve it as the way it's written.
Correct.
Correct.
There's nothing there saying, okay, Warrant Finance recommend, 5-1 ballot.
Looking for a straw poll?
Can't do that?
No.
Okay.
Because of the way it's written.
that's what I wanted to do when they
Yeah.
showed me I was wrong.
Okay.
And I
Because of
agreed
how
with
it's written. David, the business about the time slots, is that something that's set in stone? I know Jennifer works very hard.
Well, we have so many days that you have to have.
What do you mean?
For, public hearings, and then you got absentee ballots already going out, so, you know, when it all came together with the, because we may not even have done this on the, but when the petition came in, everything started coming in, we figured we just do it all at once at the same time
Yeah,
to make it worth doing. And, so.
I mean, that's understandable, I mean,
Yeah, it wasn't intentional.
No.
We'd really like to slow down the process. It just kind of crept up on us a little too fast.
So,
but
just,
there's no way we can change, like, if I want a meeting, I need to request at least 10 days ahead. A public hearing has to have time to let the public know.
Correct.
And there's no way that,
We got guidelines that we have to go by, you know,
Yeah.
got to be notices and everything else put out.
I mean, like if Warrant and Finance wanted to squeeze one more meeting in.
Well, we've done it before where we made an exception for a committee.
Yeah.
You know, we just try to, you know, I think it's 7 days, 10 days, I
It's
can't
10
remember
days.
off the top of my head.
10 days.
10 days.
10 days,
Yeah.
And, we've done it, you know, for certain, you know, like when the boiler over to the, fire station, we bang, you know, get you guys in here as soon as we can.
Right.
But it's just pretty much just a policy of ours. We've
Yeah, and
changed
that's
our
not always
policies
a good
before.
thing.
But I think it's a good idea to take, probably a recommendation of, possibly presenting something to the public so that the way that they express their concerns reflects the way the article is written.
Maybe the way we should have written it, we were trying to keep it as, you know, open as we could, you know, yes or no, or check the mark, but really, probably, for you guys' sake, was probably to, write the article as, do you, you know, want to do ballot vote, you know, with one question that would answer two. Correct? That would have been easier for you guys. The way we did it was obviously a little more difficult to make that
Not
motion.
necessarily, I believe that the public should have.
Being a poll like this, it was kind of different, so, but we appreciate your time.
Possibly you may, I mean, after you get these tallies on the warrants, you could always decide to postpone this and not have this.
We could.
Until you actually have some input from the town and,
Yeah.
you know, if you need to modify it based on what happens in October 5th.
Yeah, we very well could, but being a poll like it is, it's really, the only thing we'd have to worry about is whether or not we got the information out there or not. And I believe with the public hearings and stuff we've got coming up, the only thing we won't have is a recommendation from you guys on whether or not you think a ballot or a town meeting would be the way to go. That'd be the only difference.
I don't think that's our purview.
What's that?
I don't think that's our purview.
No, it's not. It's not at this point because of the way it was written.
We'll do that as individuals like everyone else.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
But typically in each question, you guys would have, you know, you would make a motion to approve it, you know, up or down.
Right.
Typically, the way this was written up, you really couldn't do that.
Well, no, what we had to do is approve this or reject it, up or down. I mean, that's the only thing we can do.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and it will add to confusion because that doesn't mean that this board is all for or all against the individuals.
Correct.
You know, that adds to the confusion.
But you were for putting it forward.
Correct.
You just voted that.
Well, yeah, the way the question is, yeah. But it doesn't give you
The opinions.
the opinions.
Yep.
And I
Hey, guys,
We'll do it at the ballot box.
There we go. There we go.
I got a few more things we gotta address. I got an email from Jen today. I don't know if you guys saw it. The FOIA training, that everybody needs to do. Apparently you have to do it when you're elected for the length of your term. So if your terms run out and you get elected this year, you have to redo it. So, I believe,
Oh, you have more copies?
yes.
Mine was from April 9th of this year, right? Is that,
You got put back on this year at the town meeting, right, Phil?
Thank
you.
apparently I'm here, so.
Yeah.
But I
So
mean,
Phil gets one of these.
I did it in April, so that was from before?
Yes.
Okay.
New election, so you have,
So I think Ray was too. It was me, Ray, and Phil.
the rest of us are good. 'Cause
I've
we
done
did
it?
We didn't do it last year, Margarita.
Okay.
You did this past year?
I have no idea.
You don't know it? Well,
I'll-
you can do it online.
Yeah, that's what I,
Having these paper copies will save you from printing it or whatever. So Jennifer asked me to make sure everybody that needed them had them. And, I know
Again, to
that,
be safe.
myself, I don't have to do it because I already did it. I wasn't elected this year
Right.
or appointed.
I can get a copy of mine.
We had, what's that? You want one?
No, I've got a copy of mine.
Okay. You can do this online, read your paperwork. There's really not a lot. The other thing I want to address before we adjourn is we had talked about our next Warrant and Finance Committee meeting, I think was October 24th. Does that sound right?
Sounds right. I don't have it in my calendar, so I don't know.
I think it was.
sounds right, Dennis.
October 24th.
It does sound
And now
right.
I'd like to change that date for the simple reason, I haven't notified, town administrator yet of that date. And the road committee, is working on that project down to West Shore Drive. And they have a meeting scheduled with the town for that Monday, with a culvert and things like that
Okay.
down to West Shore Drive. So what I would like to do is set a new date. And before we set a new date, I want to speak just a little bit about the audit, because the audit should be done the end of the October. And if you remember, some of you that was on the board last year, that is when the audit is supposed to be completed by the end of October. So my thought is that we would change our meeting to the first part of November That way there, we could have, or sometime in November, that way there, we could have the auditor's report to look at and discuss at that meeting, where if we have it in the end of October, we may not be able to have that report.
Okay. Just based on the notes from our last meeting, Dennis, you had put one time a month, the fourth Monday of the month starting 10/24. So that's where the 10/24 came into place.
So I'd like to change that, because I know that, like I said, the road committee, and they've got a lot going on, as you know, with this stuff down there, and I don't want to hinder their...
So do we change to
what
like
date
the
are we
first
looking
Monday
at?
of the month instead?
Whatever you guys want to do.
With,
We can do it just for
I would
a month.
recommend 11/7. If the budget is going to be available by the end of October, it's good to
We
have our
can't-
eyes on it.
We're not gonna be able to because Election Day is the next day.
Right.
Oh, yeah, we can't do
So
that. Good call, Leslie.
yeah.
We do the 14th, second Monday of the month?
Yeah, for that one meeting, why not?
Does that work for everybody?
Yeah, if we do any other time, we're getting close to Thanksgiving and...
Right.
And I'll
all
make
that.
sure that I let the town administrator know that we want it for the,
So the road committee doesn't grab your date?
yeah.
So
So
Monday,
the budgets-
11/14.
The budgets we would be able to pick up like we did last year?
Not the budget's rate, the audit.
The audit, I'm sorry.
I would hope,
So we're looking at the 14th then.
14th of November. Right. Is that right?
Yeah.
The other thing that I skipped, and I can't imagine why I did this, especially with it sitting right next to me, this West Shore Drive thing has been pretty hot topic in town, and I just wanted to have Leslie give us an update.
Yep, the engineering report came in for the 3 sketch plans for the replacement of that culvert. The road committee met last Monday, I believe, to go over the plans, and we went through it paragraph by paragraph and read aloud the plans. And then discussed it and formulated a list of questions for the engineer, and then there's questions for the selectmen and inland fisheries and DEP and Army Corps. So those have all been submitted for the public hearings. The first public hearing with the engineer is going to be Wednesday on the 28th. And the second public hearing is on October 19th, and Inland Fisheries, DEP, Army Corps will be there. I'm hoping that the engineer will be there also. So they'll be discussing permitting requirements, because we have 2 state agencies and a federal agency, all with different requirements. So it is going to be a very hard line to walk to meet all of the requirements that these agencies have for us, because they all want different things, and and the road committee's been working on this now almost 3 years. So that's how long this has been in
Leslie,
progress.
some of the requirements, is it like data for, fish flow or water flow, or is it, what sort of information do they want?
They want,
It's all of it.
specifically, the agencies want to see us put in a stream crossing.
Are they all in agreement with that?
Yes, and there's a very small window where we might be able to, and might is the operative word.
Because of...
Do it, no, let me finish, Joe. We might be able to do an in-kind. However, in going over the engineering report, and the engineering report is online on the town website, so if you want to look at it, it's there. My concern is that the window of work that, you know, we have to have the work done in this small, window. If we go over that, we start triggering all kinds of permitting requirements, and
It's July to October, isn't it?
it
Yeah, somewhere
is
there.
July 15th to September 30th.
Yeah.
And one of the sketch plans says that they need 4 weeks, the other one says 6 weeks, the other one says 8 weeks. And that is cutting it very, very close to, you know, it doesn't allow for any room for material problem, not being able to get materials, you know, whatever. And, the work has to be done at the peak of the summer season.
So,
Because of the water flow?
Because of the they say it's supposedly the low water, the low water time.
Really?
so we'll have these discussions.
Yeah.
Down the road.
Anyway, so those two public hearings are set up. Anyone interested, I encourage you to go. I encourage you to submit questions. I encourage you to ask follow-up questions if we're allowed to ask them. I have scheduled a road committee meeting on the 24th because the road committee has to give a recommendation to the selectmen as to what they would recommend that the selectmen do. And right now, we can't do it because we don't have all of the information from all of these agencies and the engineer.
The first date is what again, please?
The 28th, which is Wednesday.
Is there any funds, federal or state?
There are state funds, which, of the 3 sketch plans, only one of them would qualify for. The problem is, the application, the grant is due November 10th. And it will take quite some time to gather the information, write the grant, and we don't have a commitment from the selectmen that if this enormous amount of work is done, that it will be submitted.
That's the question that West Eastman has for the selectmen, if the road committee does all this work.
Who would write it? Who, would the road committee or?
The road committee would be doing it.
So we can apply for it.
We've had, this would be the 3rd time that, well, I submitted a grant before that, it was my first attempt at writing a grant, so it was a huge learning curve. The second one, after going through that learning curve, I wrote another one, and the selectmen wouldn't put it forward, even though it was non-binding funds. So if we had been granted the money, awarded the money, we didn't have to take it, but they still would not submit the grant, so.
Reason?
Because there was some, there was a few unhappy people on Square Pond that didn't like the plan. They didn't like the,
But
what was proposed.
that'll be all for future discussion.
Right. So,
I just wanted,
now, the grant is in the amount of $150,000. I think that we should be applying for it. However, I have an issue with putting in that amount of work with not knowing it's going to be submitted.
that's it, you can ask the selectmen that question.
Right.
And,
So that's where we stand, and then the road committee will make a recommendation, hopefully on the 24th of October, when we hopefully have all the information that we need.
So it's because of the selectmen's inaction, possibly, that we could lose $125,000?
no.
150, yeah,
150?
No,
yeah.
it's,
Be eligible for it?
well, no, because they haven't had to take any action yet.
Yeah.
All Leslie's gonna look for from the selectmen is, if we do this work, are you willing to sign off and submit it? And I'm sure they would, I don't see why they wouldn't.
It seems as though they've done it before.
Yes,
But then they also had one that they would not.
No, that's what I mean, you've gone through the motions, and all of a
Right,
sudden.
yeah, and it's a tremendous amount of work.
Yep, they're not easy.
Yep.
No, and I will just add that a lot of people were in the background. Leslie did the lion's share of the work, and the thing to remember is it does not encumber the town. Just because you are awarded does not mean you have to use it. If you don't use it, of course it goes back. And you have 2 years to use the money. And
No,
it can be used for a lot of ways.
I agree with your approach. I mean, you have to get a commitment from the selectmen
Right,
yeah.
that they're going to move on this, because otherwise, why would you even go through all the effort, considerable effort, to put it all together?
Right.
Only to be, slapped in the face.
And there is a couple things I will need from the engineer, which I'm sure I will be able to get, the one that did the sketch plans. But I can't, I can't ask her for information that is just gonna go to waste either.
Right, correct.
So,
Maybe, hopefully you can get a commitment tomorrow night,
Wednesday night.
Wednesday night. Tomorrow night would be better, then you won't have to wait till Wednesday night. Could I please have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I kind of want Charlie to make it.
So moved.
All in favor? At 8:15. Thank you, people.
8:15?